Welcome back, and hello everybody. Grab your bike and get ready to pedal, as we're off to the rainy island of Penfurzy in this narrative, Goonies-inspired action-adventure, goose-lovin' mud biking 1980s experience. So, have you heard about Knights and Bikes? The game centers around two main characters, Demelza, the lovable redhead girl who's always curious, imaginative, and a great feeder of geese, and Nessa, a vegetarian stowaway who's a few years older than Melza, but both share a deep sense of adventure, and Knights and Bikes is about letting you play out their shared experience. Before we go any further, I'd just like to give a quick shout out to Double Fine for their early review code. It was unexpected and totally awesome, and it allowed me, for once, to put out a review for a game in the first 24-hour window in a timely manner. So thank you for that, and this has been great. Right, so where were we? The Steam description of the game explicitly compares it to the 1985 classic The Goonies, and that's probably the most accurate summation for what to expect for this title. You kinda do a bit of everything. You fight cursed ghosts and pixies, you solve puzzles in sunken castles and navigate dungeons and scrapyards, but you also just explore the harbor town, or take a bike ride through the countryside, or play video games in your trailer, or eat pizza. Knights and Bike was able to hold my attention throughout all of these sequences, and so I don't want to pigeonhole this game into a particular genre or category. I definitely say it's story-based, and the narrative is a very strong central component. And it's an adventure, but it includes all kinds of things. It's a total experience that kind of just oozes with a wonder and a beauty and a charm every step of the way. And I feel like the best way to approach talking about this game is to do it chronologically. So I want to take you through the first few hours of the game to know what to expect, what you'll experience, and why I had such a great time with it all. The first and most obvious aspect of Knights and Bikes you'll experience is its art style. The whimsical environments, the wild-eyed look of the two main characters, the colorful palettes, and the hand-painted style seeps with vivid fun. The design of the two central characters induces both humor and sincerity. Demelza has this crazed look of youthful exuberance and is matched by the measured and collected presence of Nessa. And Captain Honkers was particularly noteworthy and hilarious. The art and the presentation of the game doesn't cease to become more varied and more delightful as you slowly explore the nooks and crannies of Penfurzy Island. What you'll notice second, at least what I noticed second, was the manner in which you play. The game is divided into 6 days, each representing roughly 60 to 90 minutes of gameplay, and each is kind of a different act of the game centering around a different locale on the island. And just as an aside, the total game length for me took about 7.5 hours to complete from start to finish, but that would be closer to the 10-hour mark if you're playing with a friend or you're looking to explore every corner of the stormy island. But the pacing of the game, and over these 6 days, and how you experience each day is filled with such a variety of activities. It's not like one day you're gonna have the puzzle day and one day you're gonna have biking through the countryside day. I think it takes a lot of confidence from developers to bother you with feeding geese in the first few hours of the game, or to make you bike down a dirt road in order to get to the port town. But the space in these moments of companionship and travel and journeying and kind of mundane tasks is crafted in such a way that it breaks up the pacing of the more dungeon-styled amusement parks and golf courses and scrapyards. Knights and Bike is comfortable and suddenly dropping you in a conversation between a prawn talking to his prawn father about becoming the first wizard prawn, and then putting you on a bike ride before you throwing frisbees at maniacal flaming swords. There's a seamless transition between conversation and journeying and action, and then flipping some coordinated puzzle switches. I never felt like I got overloaded with too much of one thing, and each had just the right amount of depth to keep it interesting. But there are two gameplay features that I think make Knights and Bikes particularly unique. The first is the bike. Riding around with your mud guard and handle tassels and roaring flag is just awesome. The simulation of pedaling, the wind blowing through your hair as you coast down a small hill, I don't know, they just nailed it. It was fun. I never got tired of any of the sequences where you just have to bike around. It was great. The second mechanic that I particularly enjoyed and stood out for me are the little competitions that happen throughout the game between Demelza and Nessa. I thought these moments were always particularly clever because usually co-op games have some sort of separate arena mode or other mode outside of the main experience where you can test your skills against your buddy on the couch. But here in Knights and Bikes, this competition between two girls is a perfect and ingenious narrative excuse to have some mechanical competition. When you near the end of a particular bike journey and it ends in a race, or you see who can crank a handle faster to open some bridge or door, these little moments were both fun and interesting, mechanically and narratively, and it was awesome. The quest of these two rebel bike club members is to find an ancient treasure buried deep within Penfurzy Island. Demelza needs this treasure because she wants to save her father's trailer park from being bought up by a land developer. And Nessa wants the treasure because she's a stowaway who wants to use that wealth to find a home. And the theme throughout Knights and Bikes is the idea of home and family and how that can change and how do you reconcile with that change. The player is introduced to Nessa's mischievousness early on, and I think it's one of the clever ways that pulls you in and keeps you engaged. Is Nessa going to betray Demelza and take all the treasure for herself? How are they actually going to divide the treasure? Will something happen? I don't know. And I don't want to go too deep into these characters beyond that because I think it's a real treat to unravel the details about who they are and where they come from. But this is a coming of age story, and maybe that says enough there. Lastly, I just want to talk about some of the little things that just made me smile as I was playing the game. And besides the goose, Captain Honkers, because he was awesome. There's something irresistibly charming about Knights and Bikes. I became obsessed with the mechanically pointless customization of my awesome bike. The ease of drop-in cooperative play with my cat was just great, and it's one of those rare co-op titles to me where playing alone or with your buddy on the couch are both fun and rewarding. Hearing the first synth waves as you head into the retro laser-filled dungeon just oozed cool. And then there's these little sound effects of a horse neighing as you mount your bike, or some sort of chorus that sounds a lot like the last post when a ghost knight remembers his dead comrades. Knights and Bikes, however, is not without some faults, but I would say all of these are very minor. As I pedaled into the later third of the game, I sometimes wasn't sure where I was going. Sometimes I wanted the camera to pan out a little more, and one of the dungeons or adventures towards the end didn't have any music or soundtrack in the background, and I don't know whether this was intentional or not, but it was noticeable, and it kind of detracted away from the race towards the climax. But the peak, the resolution of conflict, the ending of Knights and Bikes, the discovery of the treasure, well, I wasn't disappointed. I was still left curious. There was narrative payoff, and Captain Honkers, most importantly, makes it to the very end. So to me, Knights and Bikes gets a resounding positive score. This is the perfect game to play with a younger or older relative, or a partner, or a buddy, or your cat, or alone. This might just be a near perfect game altogether, and I hope you'll let Penfurzy Island make an impression on you as it has for me.
Put it out loud. First you gotta do the truck shuffle. Come on. Truck shuffle, truck shuffle. Do it. First you gotta do the truck shuffle. Come on. Truck shuffle, truck shuffle. Do it. Oh shit, what? Do it. Do it. You got it. Shut up now. Goonies never shuffle.